Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the Metabolism and Menopause podcast. My name is Stephanie, and I am your host and CEO of Vitality OET. We are a women's nutrition, health, and fitness company that focuses predominantly on women's hormones, particularly as we start going through perimenopause and onwards. We know that you start experiencing so many changes in this time of your life, whether it be hot flashes, night sweats, irritability, brain fog, or that waking around the middle that seems to have come out of absolutely nowhere despite you not changing anything. So you go back to your tried and true methods of cutting calories, cutting carbs, doing a bunch of cardio, yet nothing seems to be working, or you end up feeling worse and the scale actually goes in the opposite direction than what you want. So our mission here at Vitality is to help you understand how your body is now inherently different, to help you understand what's actually happening to your body in this time of your life, so you can live a life full of vitality, reach those health and fitness goals, feel in control at home in your body again, and really understand how to take care of this new body of yours. So today we are going to be talking a little bit about reverse dieting again here. We're going to be talking about weight fluctuations because a lot of people panic because the thought of eating more food, oh my gosh, I'm going to gain weight. That doesn't necessarily mean it's fat. So we're going to give you a good explanation in terms of what the expectations should be in a reverse diet, why you're seeing scale fluctuations, especially during perimenopause and menopause where it seems like the scale is just all over the place or it starts to go up. And of course, we're panicking. So we want to really set the stage as to what's going on in your body. But before Coach Kirianna and I jump into this, it is my birthday this week. It's also Vitality's birthday this week, which is super funny that I managed to plan all of that serendipitously all together at one time. So we are doing a wonderful birthday giveaway where one person is going to win 3 months of free coaching on us. And then we also have runner-up prize packages for $500 off coaching, plus a $50 gift card to your choice of Lululemon. You can get it from Amazon. You can get it from Starbucks. And you'll also get entered to win one of 2 Dutch test prizes, which is our hormone testing. And along with that, you will get obviously a consultation call. We'll go over everything with you, give you the results, a written lab report, all those things to help you really understand what the heck is going on in your body. So if you want to apply, it is 100% completely free. So there'll be a link in the show notes for you. So again, $500 off coaching for runner-up prizes, $50 gift card to your choice of Lululemon, Amazon, or Starbucks, and then enter to win free Dutch testing, and one person will win a free 3 months of coaching on us. So let's hop right into this. Let's set the stage. Maybe you wake up feeling great. You know, all your hard work is clearly paying off today. Maybe you're feeling a little bit leaner, or your body feels a little bit tighter, which is always a great feeling. And you feel lighter. You feel good. I've had these days, except not since being pregnant. That doesn't happen anymore. But that's besides the point. So you step on the scale, and this has happened to me many of times. And you're expecting it to be lower than it was the day before because you feel good. Like you look in the mirror like, dang, I feel good. So you hop on the scale and it's not. And it's actually higher. And you went from feeling super awesome and now your whole morning is completely ruined. You're in a terrible mood. And now you feel like your hard work isn't paying off, that you're not making progress. And you feel like all this effort you're putting in just isn't paying off. And that's super frustrating to feel. And we let that dictate our entire day. And for many people, stepping on the scale can be an absolute nightmare. It can totally determine your emotional state and your self-worth. And that can affect your entire day or even the rest of your week. And sometimes it can even dictate the F this, I'm done. I'm going to throw in the towel. If it's not working, I may as well eat whatever I want just because that number on the scale isn't what you've expected. And I'm sure many of you were like, oh my gosh, that's me. I totally feel that. I have been there too. I've had that moment of, dang, I look good today. And then I hop on the scale and I'm upset. And Taylor actually hit our scale for about 4 months because I was letting it affect me too much. And he was like, Steph, do you listen to your own podcasts? Like, what is wrong with you? He's very strict with me. So he hid that scale for a few months from me because I was having a hard time when I was trying to get my hormones back in check so that we were able to get pregnant. So the scale always has been a self-worth kind of metric for a lot of women because for some reason, we all just assume that being lighter means that we are more valuable, we are more worthy, we deserve to be loved, right? If we are lighter, which is like so wild, but that's the story we tend to tell ourselves. And it has also become a point of contention going into menopause because it seems like, again, like I said, no matter what, we just can't get those numbers to go in the direction that we really want. So then we start pairing reverse dieting, which I talked about on the last episode, because we want to make sure, again, we're getting your metabolism up, that we're helping with your digestion and things like that. But that includes slowly increasing our calorie intake. And we will throw that into the mix. And we know that your body doesn't necessarily feel safe enough to lose fat yet. And that's why we're increasing our calories. And you're probably asking, or you have asked, or it's been in your mind multiple times from listening to the podcast here, that like, how is eating more ever going to help the scale move? Like, because like in our minds, we're like, that doesn't make sense. Like, you eat more, you get fat, right? That's what we all think. But today, our job is to help you understand what to expect from the scale during a reverse diet and also understand why the scale might fluctuate on you. But for more details on like the actual reverse diet, the purpose, how to do it, what to expect, the do's and don'ts, go to the last episode, because that one dives into it more. Because if we put it all together, we would literally be here for 3 hours. And I know some of you like listening to my voice, but that's a lot of me time. So Kirianna, let's review the reverse diet quickly for people, so we can all kind of be on the same page as the first episode you're listening to.
I don't mind listening to your voice, Steph. So if you want to, we can.
Thank you.
But yes, I will quickly review the reverse diet. Of course, as Steph said, go and listen to the last podcast first if you have not, the one from right before this one, just because it will give you a lot more details on what the premise of the reverse diet actually is. But long story short, the goal of the reverse diet is to get body systems working optimally again and improve internal health markers that are holding you back from losing that weight that you want or just living a life that you want to. This could look like improving sleep, improving digestion, improving energy, eliminating energy crashes throughout the day, reducing those menopausal symptoms like hot flashes or night sweats or irritability, and so much more. So essentially, your body, if you need a reverse diet, and I say this a lot in consultation calls, your body is currently firing on 3 cylinders, but we need it to be firing on all 8 cylinders. So if you are in need of a reverse diet, which honestly most of us are when we go into menopause and are having weight loss resistance and we have a history of dieting, that means that your body is not firing on all those cylinders right now. And typically, we encourage a reverse diet for people who need to repair those internal systems and improve their relationship with food and themselves and get their body back to a place that they're actually capable of losing fat again. So essentially, your metabolism is not at a place where we can have a really productive fat loss period for you. So for most of us, we've spent so much time eating so little, dieting, excessively exercising, not dealing with our stress, that our body's at a point where it's kind of starting to shut down. And this is when women will typically come to us. They'll tell us, we hear this a lot, that they're unable to lose weight anymore, even when they're doing everything right, or their old diets that used to work aren't working anymore, or their old way of like eating very little or intermittent fasting isn't working anymore. And suddenly they just feel terrible all the time. And they really need to improve how their body is running. And that's first and foremost what we need to do is we are in a reverse diet to fix the body, not inherently to lose weight right away. And that means for some of us, the scale isn't going to go down really drastically in the reverse diet. But again, just remembering that the reverse diet is there to put you in a position to actually successfully lose weight. It is not inherently going to cause extensive weight loss for some of us right in the reverse diet.
Yeah, and like first and foremost, even with clients coming into our coaching program, that we need to address some expectations in a reverse diet or this phase 1 that we do in our coaching. So then we are going to discuss some of the reasons the scale might be fluctuating so you can start to be your own detective and hopefully not put so much emotional weight into the scale, because the more you can understand, the better. And honestly, I almost like people to like, if you're someone who's going to weigh yourself, write down these things, have that list next to your scale or even on your scale. So if the scale doesn't show what you want, you can literally go through the checklist and be like, okay, not fat, just this thing, because that can be really comforting to know that like, you're not going to gain 3 pounds of fat overnight. That's not how this works. Most of the time, it's going to be some sort of fluid retention. So having some understanding can make a huge, huge difference and give you such peace of mind. Because we know if we're stressed out emotionally, like that's still not going to be good for our health either. So that's a good tidbit for you guys. So just like everyone's body reacts different to different diets, your body is probably going to react differently than someone else's in a reverse diet. So expecting to lose a ton of weight when you start eating more isn't going to happen for a majority of people. Remember that we cannot emphasize this enough. A reverse diet is for people who need to repair their internal health, their metabolism, improve their hormone balance, their gut health, their energy, their sleep. This is really important because if we're not doing that, good luck losing weight. It's going to be an uphill battle, and any weight that you lose, you're probably going to gain back. So expectations for a reverse diet, which is phase 1 of our coaching program, is going to look different for everyone. So if you're in the program, as many of our clients know, your coach is going to discuss with you what those expectations will look like for you based on the 5+ comprehensive health assessments that we do with you that give us a pretty in-depth understanding of where your body is at. And if you're doing a reverse on your own, then expectations needs to be much more open. Be aware that you're probably going to see a lot more fluctuations because you don't have these things done. And you need to be able to understand that. So with that, like, for example, our comprehensive assessments that we do, we have different categories, and basically it tells us what the biggest red flags are. So if you score really high on, let's say, hormonal imbalance, and there's some cortisol stuff or some gut health stuff or some insulin resistant stuff, the thing that gets the biggest red flags is the thing that we're going to work at addressing first. Because we know, let's say, like if your hormones are out of whack, but your gut health also isn't super good, but the hormone symptoms are pretty aggressive. If we address your hormonal balance, we know gut health will also improve. So by helping us figure out which area has the most red flags, we can then create the best plan for you that's going to be most effective. Because let's say you started working on gut health, but you're still not going to get super far because we know the root cause is likely the hormonal imbalances. So that just really helps us understand how to get the most bang for your buck, like effort and time almost, to get you to where you want to be quicker. That doesn't mean it's going to be a fast process, but if you are doing it on your own, you do have to be aware that, okay, you're probably going to see more scale fluctuations. You're probably going to see timeline take a little bit longer than you necessarily want to, just because you don't have that kind of, I almost like to call it like a shortcut, like you get to bypass some things. So that doesn't mean you can't do it on your own, but your expectations have to allow for more flexibility just because we aren't as dialed in. And that is something just to be aware of. So we have lots of women who do it on their own. That doesn't mean you can't. I don't want to scare you into thinking that you have to do coaching, because you don't. But you need to be aware that, okay, there is more risk of potentially seeing more scale fluctuations and things like that, just because you don't have that full picture and understanding and someone to really guide you through that. But that doesn't mean you can't do it on your own. I want to be very clear on that. Just expectations have to be adjusted.
Totally. And so let's talk first of all about what we see commonly in a reverse diet, if you're doing it on your own or if you're with a coach. And as Steph said, the efficiency might be a little bit better with a coach because you have an objective third party looking at all of your results. Remember, you are probably your own worst critic, so you might not see the biofeedback that we do when it tells, of your body telling us where it needs to go or how it's responding to the reverse diet, especially at the beginning. So a coach can definitely help expedite the process for you. But as Steph said, it might still not be a very fast process for some of us. But by starting to eat more consistently or increase our energy intake with this reverse diet, you actually might notice that the number on the scale may climb by 2 to 5 pounds from maybe your original weight where you started. And this is actually really normal as we start to replenish our body's stores of energy and even water, and probably start to gain some muscle. So we'll get a little bit more in depth about that in a second. Some people might lose weight. Some people might stay the same. Again, everyone's journey is very different. Some people may gain more weight than that, and we will discuss that in a second. Just very quickly here. If that is happening to you or happened to you, keep listening. We have some things that we want you to ask yourself and some things that you can go through to problem solve for that. But this is why for us, it's really important to stay in contact with someone. So stay in contact with us if you're trying to do it on your own. Make sure that you're communicating with your coach if you are in the program, because your coach can actually help determine what may be going on under the surface or in your lifestyle if your body is not reacting in the way that we expect it to or that you expect it to. And again, this is where that supervision really comes in handy, because weekly, your coach can look at how your body is responding to things, which can help make the reverse diet the most efficient possible for you and take the shortest amount of time, because we can constantly move the target or shift the direction very slowly or in the right direction if we know exactly how the body has been responding for the last week or so, right? And remember that the objective is for you to stay relatively the same on the scale, plus or minus 3 to 5 pounds, which is very normal fluctuations, in this phase 1 or in this reverse diet physically, and improve your metabolic rate and improve your internal health and be able to eat more so that your body can lose fat again when we do go into that fat loss phase.
Yeah, and so you should be expected to feel better in whatever way it looks for you. So maybe it's more energy, better sleep, better strength in the gym. This is a big one. Digestion starts to improve, so we have less bloating, or maybe we're actually going to the bathroom every day, which is amazing. Less hormonal side effects. We've got appetite, hunger cues again. So people tend to panic where they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so hungry. I'm like, that's a good sign. You're supposed to feel hungry. So if you go from not feeling hungry to feeling hungry, that's a good sign. Like, that's not a bad thing. That's a good sign that your metabolism's like, oh yeah, we're ready. We're good. Things are happening. Because again, that means your hormones are working in the right way, because you are supposed to feel hungry. And this is why we have so many comprehensive assessments when you come into the program, so we can really identify what markers need to be repaired and track them along the way. So if you've ever had a conversation with myself in the DMs or via email or on a consultation call with any of us, we ask you a lot of questions. It's because we're trying to get as much information as we can to see what are the biggest areas that need improvement. And for most women, it's like energy is a really huge one. Sleep is a really huge one. And then of course, weight gain is one big one. But like in terms of health markers that tell us we're moving in the right direction, sleep, energy, and then hormonal symptoms tend to be the biggest ones. And those are ones that you typically see improve through the reverse diet if you're doing it properly within like 6 weeks. Some people see it even sooner, which is awesome. But that's a good sign that things are moving in the right direction. And the reverse diet is not only meant to give you some more flexibility with your food, it's also meant to help you repair your relationship with food and yourself and improve your nutritional literacy. So while you start feeling better and firing on more cylinders, it's important to also be using this reverse to see this as a learning opportunity to improve your food knowledge and your macro knowledge and developing skills that you can take with you for the rest of your life, because you don't want to be tracking till you're 80. That's not what you want to do. So you need to be learning during this process as well, which obviously the coaches are going to help you through if you do coaching. But this is where you get to repair that relationship with food and understand, why are you eating some things? Like, why does this make me feel better? Why does this make me feel less better? Things like that. Like, I had a call with a woman yesterday that I've known for quite a long time. She started training with me in person. Now she's working with Coach Beth with nutrition. And she got on the call and she's like, I'm eating carbs again and I feel so good. Like, thank you so much. And I'm like, that's amazing. Like, that's what I want to hear. Like, that is such a good feeling. And she was shocked to be eating more food than she feels than she has in her entire life. The scale hadn't gone up. She's sleeping great. She can manage stress better. Like, it's been a very good healing journey for her. So we're not even at the fat loss phase yet, but like, she feels healthier. She feels better. She's eating food with her family. She's not panicking about feeling guilty for enjoying a piece of cake or whatever it might be, right? She's not stuck on, I have to eat super clean all the time, because just because you're eating clean doesn't mean you're going to lose weight. I mean, most of you women are experiencing that, where I eat really well, I don't have any sugar, I don't do this, I don't do that, and I can't lose weight. And just because you're eating clean doesn't mean you're going to lose weight. And I think that's a very common misconception when it comes to this kind of stuff.
Absolutely. Especially with we do get a lot of women that are like, I'm eating really healthy, why am I not losing weight? Well, if you're not eating enough or you're not eating consistently, sometimes it doesn't matter how healthy the food is, right? So let's go into reasons the scale might go up in a reverse diet, because I think that's very important, especially starting a reverse diet. I think we kind of go in with some pretty unrealistic expectations, some of us. And it's really important to know, first of all, that fluctuations in the scale are very normal. So if the scale ends up going up by 1 to 3 to 5 pounds, please, first and foremost, do not freak out. We're going to discuss the daily fluctuations. So if your weight is going up and down, we will discuss that at the end of the episode. So in a few minutes, bear with us, but we are going to discuss the scale going up in the reverse diet first. And there will be some factors that can cause the scale to go up a little and stay up for the reverse diet phase. And those reasons, first of all, are not fat for most of us. And the first reason actually going to be water. If the scale went up a couple pounds, it's because more food equals more water storage, especially carbohydrates. Carbs store 3 molecules of water per molecule of carbs. And Steph, you're going to talk about carbs in a second because they're so important. But when we have more food in our body and we are storing more things, we are going to probably be storing a lot more water than we used to, which is going to cause that number on the scale to go up just a little bit. Again, it's not fat, it's just water, and don't worry about it.
Yeah, so this is why, like, if you're on like a low carb diet or keto, you drop weight super quick. It's because let's say you're taking out like 100, 150 grams of carbs out of your diet, times that by 3. That's like 300 to like 500 grams of water that's left your body. So you're just dehydrating yourself. And the same thing with alcohol. Like alcohol, if you have alcohol, the next day your body will overcompensate with like water. So same thing. If you're someone who drinks even just 1 glass like every other day of wine or whatever that might be, you are going to typically see the scale go up and down a lot because your body can actually hold on to that fluid for like 2-3 days, especially once you start going through perimenopause and menopause. So very important to note. So reason number 2 that the scale can be fluctuating is carbs. Okay. So if there is one myth, someone asked me this question, they were like, if there was one thing that you could put on a billboard for everyone to see about nutrition and menopause, what would it be? And I said, eat your freaking carbs. Like that is literally number 1, what I would say. But the more carbs you have, the more storage for energy. So that doesn't mean fat. Everyone's like, storing energy, that means I'm fat. No. Carbs store themselves as glycogen in our muscles. So this not only gives our muscles good shape and fullness, but it gives our muscle the energy it needs to work out, to function properly day to day, and even communicate with other body systems like hormone centers to help repair those muscles too. If you're eating a good amount of carbs, then you might not see as much of a fluctuation in the scale as someone who comes into a reverse with very low carb intake, because their tanks of glycogen have so much more room to be filled. So if you think about it, if you're in a low carb diet, your muscle cells, think of each muscle cell as like a tank of gas. So if you're eating very low carb, that tank is quite empty. Like you really don't have much storage there. And as we increase that, those tanks are going to get more full. It's not fat. It's glycogen and water, stored in muscle cells, not fat cells. And so these tanks are going to fill up. And if you think of like a car, think of like if there was a gas tank, like little gas tanks all over that car. And if you filled up each gas tank, obviously it's going to weigh more at the end of the day. But it's not fat, it's just water. So that's important to be aware of, and eat your carbs, you guys. Carbs are so important. If you are not eating carbs, you're going to experience brain fog. You're going to be tired all the time. Your sleep is going to be brutal. Your cortisol levels are going to be higher. You're going to be stuck in fight or flight. You're going to have more bloating, believe it or not. Your thyroid function slows down. So I've seen a lot of women who have actually given themselves hypothyroidism from eating low carb for so long, from competing or doing a bunch of keto diets or things like that. So carbohydrates are so important. And if we aren't eating enough carbs, we actually lose muscle mass, which Kirianna's going to talk about in a second here. But with carbohydrates, our body is using that carbs in our bloodstream for energy. If we are not having carbohydrates, our stress response goes up, especially if you're not eating, especially if you're fasting. And what your body does is actually break down muscle, turns that into amino acids. Those go to your liver, and your liver is going to turn that into sugar and pump it into your bloodstream. So if you aren't eating carbs, your body will break down muscle mass to turn that into sugar to give you energy, which is going to bring your insulin up, which if this keeps going and going and going, you can actually give yourself insulin resistance, which we've seen in women who are big exercisers, who are eating really low carb. We've had to slowly introduce carbohydrates, and now their blood sugars are doing great. So low carb is like, if I could eradicate one thing, it would be low carb diets. I swear that's like number 1. And this isn't an excuse to go eat donuts and chips and chocolate and stuff. It's like, have some pasta, have some bread, eat a bagel, have a wrap, rice, potatoes, eat your potatoes. They're packed with serotonin, which is a happy hormone. Like, you want to be happy? Go eat potatoes. Like, white potato. You can have white potato. Nothing bad will happen, I promise.
Steph, I think with all of our new clients that come onto coaching, we should all send them a bag of potatoes when they sign up for carbs.
Here's your welcome gift. Here's some potatoes. You're welcome.
Or like a loaf of bread or something. Here you go. Here's your welcome gift.
Oh my gosh, we should. That'd be so funny.
But as Steph said, those glycogen storage tanks that we have in our body that need to be filled with carbohydrates. So if you don't have carbs, you're not going to fill them until you eat carbs, and then you will fill them. That will actually be it's stored in your liver as well, but we actually store a lot of glycogen in our muscle. And as we eat more, as we get stronger, as we work out more effectively because we have more energy, we will start to actually build more muscle, and we'll also build the volume that those storage tanks in our muscles can actually hold for glycogen. And remember, muscle is pretty dense. So a lot of the times, the body that you maybe think you want probably weighs a lot more than you think it should, because muscle is so dense. And when we store glycogen, we actually weigh way more than we think we should, right? And we do. And we've had several clients in the program actually weigh more than when they started, but they look completely different and they have significantly less fat than before. But you would never know that they weigh more than when they started because they look so much smaller and so much more lean. And just another testament that the number really doesn't mean everything to people.
Yeah, and I think like it's important to note like 1 pound of muscle takes up like the third of space as 1 pound of fat. So like if you're, let's say like, I don't know volumes. I shouldn't even give this example, but let's say like, we'll use a length. Let's use a length because that's easier for me. If you have 9 centimeters, actually I have a lot of Americans. Let's say you have 9 inches of fat, let's say, and like it's the same width. So, and that's 1 pound. 3 inches of muscle would weigh the exact same. So the scale might not change, but you've lost 6 inches of fat. That's huge. So I think people don't really realize that. And that makes a huge difference. This is why we have women who weigh the same or weigh more, but their body composition looks crazy different. If you look at, I posted this on my story the other day, a picture of me at 13 weeks pregnant, which like, there's clearly a baby in my tummy there versus where I was during my wedding cut, the exact same weight. But do you think like, do I want to look like I have a baby in my tummy or do I want to look like I did when I was lean for the wedding? But the weight was the exact same. But there's a difference in like muscle composition and things like that there. So that's important to note that the scale doesn't matter, which is like very hard to get past because we're so obsessed with it, but it is very tough. And the fourth reason that you might see the scale go up during a reverse diet is you have more food in your digestive system. You're eating more, so you're going to have more in your gut. That's not a bad thing. That's not fat. So think about if you're going to be eating an extra 2 apples a day. Imagine standing on the scale holding those 2 apples. The scale is going to go up. So having more food in your body is going to make that scale go up. Again, it's not fat. So especially if you go from eating like 1,200 calories to 1,800, 1,900, 2,000, that's a lot more volume of food going into your stomach. And like as your digestive system goes, improves, you'll be eliminating more frequently than you were like, let's say every 3 days or every 4 days. If you're going every day, that'll eventually like iron itself out. But the beginning, while your body's adjusting, you do have more food in your digestive system. So the next thing is we have had some women try to do this on their own, which is good. I want you to take the information that you're getting from these podcasts and implementing it. And I love that. I hop on calls with people and they're like, I'm not having coffee before my breakfast anymore. And I'm like, yes, I'm so proud of you. Thank you for putting things into action. That makes me so happy. However, we have women sometimes that come to us 2 weeks later, absolutely freaking out because the scale has suddenly jumped up. If you notice there's more than 5 pounds of weight gain, or you feel like you're putting on fat in the reverse diet, I want you to take a step back, take a nice big deep breath, maybe 5 to be
10.
Honest, really calm yourself down. Yeah. Do not panic, which I know is easier said than done. And I want you to ask these questions for yourself, or you can have this conversation with us. 1, how consistent have you been with your tracking? Are you in a 100 calorie range day to day, or is one day 1,300 calories and the next day 1,800 calories and then we're 1,500 calories, or are you staying within like 100 calorie range? How consistent have you been in that calorie range? And how consistent have you been with protein? Are you staying again in like a 10 gram range, or are you doing 60 one day and 100 the next, and then all of a sudden you got 40 one day? How consistent are you being? Because inconsistent tracking with calories and protein can lead to crazy inconsistent results. So this is very important. I want you to write this down, like put it somewhere where you can see it. You are going inconsistent tracking in calorie intake and protein intake equals inconsistent results. And the premise of a reverse diet is so your body can feel comfortable letting go. Okay, we want to let go of fat and bring your metabolism back up again so your body becomes good at burning calories. It's important to stay within like 100 to 200 calorie range for calories and a 10 to 20 gram range for proteins throughout your reverse diet. The more consistent you can be, the better the results are that you are going to get. And this is because like your metabolism is like a fire. So we want to keep that fire burning consistently because the same size of the fire is going to be the same calories burned every day, right? But if one day we're tossing like a whole bunch of fuel in there, the fire gets big. But then if you're doing really little for a few days, then it disappears, right? So you got this crazy up and down, up and down. There's no consistency in your body. It's almost like a good relationship. I give this analogy a lot where if you're getting consistent calorie intake in, it's like a good relationship. You're not worried about having conversations with your partner because you know they're not going to have an adverse reaction. They're going to like, you guys can talk it out. You know what to anticipate. Whereas if you're in a not so great relationship, and I think we've all had those in the past, you're like, oh, should I bring this up? Do I wait for a better time? Because you're kind of walking on eggshells. You're playing defense. You don't really know what to anticipate. And that's how your body is when you're not getting consistent calories in. It's like, oh, are we going to get food tomorrow? I don't know. We better just hold on to this to keep you feeling safe. So you want to track your weekly averages. And if you think you're consistent too, maybe you're not consistent as you think you are. So this is where we're not just tracking and being like, oh, kind of hit it. I'll try again next day and try and get better. Look back and actually look, am I actually as consistent as I think I am? Because I think a lot of people are like, well, I've been working on getting more protein. I'm trying to get more veggies. I'm trying to eat more consistently. But are you? That's the real question. The next one is consistency in your movement. Inconsistent movement or sudden cutting out your cardio that you used to do 6 days per week is going to drastically change your energy expenditure and how hard your body was working before. So it's important to never make huge drastic changes to your diet or to your lifestyle. You always want to do things gradually. So if you're working out 6 days a week, let's back it up to 5, then we'll back it up to 4, then we'll back it up to 3, depending on like what your stress response is and how your body's responding. Again, everyone's gonna be a little bit different, but I don't want you to go from doing everything to doing nothing because that's a big change for your body. And then also, how consistent have you been with your directed lifestyle changes? So de-stressing, or maybe we're doing a gut health protocol or something like that. And this is very much overlooked for a lot of people because we think it's meaningless, right? De-stressing, we're like, whatever. I like quote unquote handle it well, right? No, your body is stressed. Even if you think mentally you're doing it well, your body's still going through that stress response. De-stressing is going to be so key in repairing the body, helping you move forward, and your health goals. So this includes positive self-talk, believe it or not. Mindset makes a huge difference. Consistency in that will make huge progress. And this includes talking to yourself. We actually did a podcast. I don't even remember what episode it was. I think it's in like the 30s or the 40s episodes. But how the way you think can actually cause hormonal imbalances. So go listen to that one because that one's just like a pretty eye-opening one. But positive self-talk and self-compassion is important. Don't criticize everything. It doesn't mean you have to love every aspect of yourself. I think that's really unrealistic. But point out the things that you do like. Like today, I think my hair looks pretty darn good. It curled great. Love 3-day curls. Love dry shampoo. Amazing. But like, am I happy with other aspects of my body right now? No, it's weird because I'm pregnant and things are changing. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on. But I'm not going to like criticize myself for that. Focus on more positive things. Don't focus on the negative because the loop that you can get through, it makes a really big difference despite you thinking that it probably doesn't. But that doesn't mean you can't love certain aspects of yourself and still want to change. I think people are like, I can't love myself until I reach X, Y, Z. And that's a really miserable place to be. It'll take you a lot longer to get there. And it can absolutely affect your ability to see changes because when we're doing negative self-talk, it's very easy to self-sabotage. Very, very easy. I've seen it a million times, and this is a tough one to kind of work through, but focus on things that you do like, and then you will get there slowly. It's going to take practice, especially when we're so used to criticizing ourselves. But think about what would you tell your daughter if she told you those things? What would you tell your best friend if she told you those things? Have as much compassion for yourself as you do for others. And I know that's like, again, so much easier said than done, but think about your kids, your daughter-in-law or your niece or your daughter or even your siblings, right? Like, talk to yourself the way you would talk to others, because I can guarantee you if we talk to others the way we talk to ourselves, we would be alone because no one would want to be around us. And I think it's a very eye-opening thing. So do positive self-talk, say it out loud, because that also makes it more like real. But that can actually make a big difference to actually reaching your goals, because otherwise it's so easy to self-sabotage. We see it all the time.
I can concur. Steph's hair looks amazing today, in case you're just listening to this and you're not watching anything. Looks great, Steph.
Thank you. I think it's the lighting too from the window. Just like we got good lighting. It looks good today.
It's all falling into place today. It looks amazing. So on a note of the what Steph was kind of talking about with the positive self-talk, is I think we don't realize how much it holds us back. And I actually had just a little like aside. I had someone who did a consultation call, and she did the reverse by herself. And I checked in with her after 4 to 6 weeks, and she emailed me back and she was like, nothing has changed. And so I was like, okay, well, send me some tracking information, because let's get to the bottom of this and let's do some objective detective work here. And so I took all of her information that she sent me, and we found out by doing weekly averages that her calorie goal had actually never increased. And it had, in fact, over the course of 4 to 6 weeks, gone down. And a really important aspect of this is in the note section of like her daily journal that she was keeping all of her numbers in, which amazing that she was tracking so consistently, was a lot of negative self-talk. A lot of, oh, I'm still staying the same. A lot more negative names than this. I'm still fat, right? And as we went down the course of 4 to 6 weeks, we realized that she had not done the reverse diet. And part of the problem was that she was so self-deprecating that she was not allowing herself to eat more, because she was not liking where she was at now and didn't want to change that for the worse, just in case eating more made her feel worse. But we also went 4 to 6 weeks of her eating the same / eating a little bit less, and then starting to feel not any different, right? So just make sure that we can associate the fact that that positive self-talk, or even just like accepting the things the way they are, being neutral about stuff that you maybe used to be negative about, is very, very important. And on the note of tracking and of measuring and of making sure that we are looking at our objective averages for the week to actually know that we are increasing our food intake or our energy intake, is ask yourself, am I being honest with myself? Or maybe if you're in the coaching, am I being honest with my coach? And I don't know about you, but there are some days that even I have to get very real with myself, because it's really easy to kind of lie to yourself sometimes. Am I truly doing what I committed to myself, what I committed to my coach, what I committed to, Stephanie? Or am I am I being inconsistent? Am I overestimating drastically so it looks like I'm eating more and I'm actually not, right? Or am I underestimating and I'm not tracking all those extra bites or all those extra licks of food that I'm not tracking? Am I not planning ahead? Or did I use this as an excuse to suddenly stop getting steps in? Or I suddenly stopped all of the cardio that I did because I just was so tired. And we get that, but the progressive titrating off is going to be very important, because your body doesn't want to have those drastic changes, because that's more stress, right? Am I actually doing the reverse diet, or have I been at the same calories, as I said, for 4 to 6 weeks, thinking that I was eating more, but when we take my averages, I actually am eating less, right? So getting honest with yourself, while it might be kind of uncomfortable, is so important for true success. And it's so funny because Yeah, so I'm like an extra biter. I'm an extra licker. I will snack as I make my meals. Like I am the worst for that. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this. Derek, he thinks it's so funny because he is not. He will like not eat anything until it's beautifully plated and it looks amazing. And then he sits down at the table. I'm like, how do you have this self-control? This is not me. I would have eaten all of this before it even got on the plate. And so he actually sent me this really funny Instagram video a couple of days ago of it was a guy and he was kind of like pretending that he was on, and this happens to me in a fat loss phase where I'm like I'm cutting my calories and I'm not seeing any results, and then I have to get really honest with myself that honestly like I'm probably eating a lot more than I think I am, and I'm probably just still in maintenance because I take those extra licks. And the video was like this guy weighing out his like yogurt or weighing out his ice cream for the day, and he's like, oh, 75 grams, no, I need 50, and he like takes the spoonful out and he's like, okay, 50, and then he eats the spoonful. I'm like, that's me, that's totally me. I'm like, okay, it said 50 on the scale, so like whatever goes in my mouth around it doesn't matter, right? So just make sure that you're being honest with yourself. Are you truly trying to eat more? Are you afraid? If you are, that's okay, but being honest with that is really important on the journey.
Well, and I think that's why like data is so important, but someone keeping you in check. Like, I mean, I had Kirianna coach me for my fat loss phase because I knew if there's no one holding me accountable, I'm probably not going to do this.
We're all the same.
And I remember being at like week 5 or 4, I think it was week 5. I was like, oh, I'm plateaued. I need to drop my calories more. And Kirianna's like, have you looked at your data? She's like, you are all over the place. Your protein was crap for like 3 days this week. We're not cutting, just like get back to on track. And I was like, oh, fine, okay. But like, if it wasn't for her, I probably would have been like, oh my gosh, like what's going on? This is so dumb. And like try and cut my calories again. And like Taylor is really good at keeping me in check because sometimes I'll be like, oh my gosh, like I'm just so tired today. He's like, Steph, seriously? I'm like, what? And he's like, before you, I knew nothing about nutrition, but sometimes I wonder because like you have eaten literally nothing today. Like, what did you have for lunch? I'm like, soup. He's like, tomato soup. There's no protein in that. And I'm like, dang it, I've taught you too much. Now you're calling me out. But it's like good to have that because having someone keep you in check sometimes is important. And you do have to get like brutally honest with yourself. And like, I mean, Kirianna and I have been doing this for a very long time and we still suck at it sometimes. So having like, when we have serious goals, having someone to keep you accountable can be really important. Like for me right now, I'm working with at a small group training session for pre and postnatal moms, and you can bring your baby and it's super cool. And I love that because if I'm paying someone, I'm going to show up to that class. Because even the other day I have my workout scheduled and I'm just like, I don't feel like it. And then I just don't do it. Because before I had like a community and a big goal and now I'm just like, I don't know. I don't really want to do it. Right. So I even told Taylor when I went for the first time on Monday, I was like, I just don't feel like it. I don't want to go, but like, I'm not going to waste my money. So then I went. I felt great after, and I feel good these next 2 days. I'm going to go again tomorrow. Like, it's been good, but it's like, sometimes we do need that, like, okay, are you actually doing the stuff? Like, sometimes you just need someone to push you a bit or just get you started. Honestly, like just because I know if I get into the groove of this, it'll be easier to maintain it on my own. But sometimes it's just hard to get the wheel turning. You know, that's always the hardest part is like trying to get the momentum going. So the next thing is to pay attention to your pictures. How do they look? Because body composition is going to tell us way more than the scale will ever tell us. The scale is just a gravitational pull at one single moment in time. If I drink a glass of water and hop on the scale again, that number is going to go up. It did not tell me anything about my muscle mass. Even those in-body scales and stuff, they are not an accurate one-time measure. If you are measuring consistently over time, it's great for seeing trends and movement, but the absolute number is actually crap. Because again, if you drink water and then hop on the scale again, it's going to tell you have more muscle mass because the electrical current on those scales will tell you that you have more muscle because it's going through that a lot quicker than it would through fat mass. So take those results with a grain of salt. They're great for tracking progress over time. If like it's in the morning, same consistency, you like went to the bathroom, you're weighing yourself and then you're done. But if you're weighing throughout the day, like randomly in the afternoon, super inaccurate, not a great measure. And we have clients who absolutely freak out because they gain those 5 pounds, but their pictures, like we said, look completely different than they used to, which tells us as a coach that they're on the right track. They're losing fat, they're gaining muscle. That means their metabolism is going to be higher, their insulin resistance is going to be drastically better. So they're going to have more insulin sensitivity, better blood sugar control because muscle helps with that. And this is where other metrics are so, so important, because if you're doing this on your own and you see the scale go up without realizing your body composition is changing, you're probably going to throw in the towel thinking nothing is working when it actually is. And this is where photos are really important, because we see ourselves in the mirror every single day. So that would be like if you tear off one piece of toilet paper every day, you don't notice if the roll is getting smaller. But then if you take pictures over time, you can see that that roll is getting smaller. So it's the same with your body. And sometimes you have to pay attention that we lose weight very evenly. Like some people will lose it just from their arms or just from their legs or their butt or their tummy. And like it's more obvious to see changes, but some people lose it so evenly around their body that they just become smaller versions of themselves. So pictures might not actually tell the whole difference. So then paying attention to how your clothes are fitting is going to be really important. Because if the number on the scale goes up, but clothes are fitting better or even the same, why are we worried? Nothing, we're not actually seeing fat gain, right? This signals a change in your body composition. And then also measurements are awesome, because again, if you are just getting a little bit smaller everywhere, because some people do see that, we see that in pictures with some clients sometimes. So measurements end up being a better way, because we can actually see changes in your circumferences, like maybe my waist is getting smaller, or maybe my glutes are finally growing, which is super exciting. So measurements can give you a good perspective on body composition changes. So the scale on its own is honestly a terrible metric. This is why we always encourage pictures or measuring, pay attention how clothes are fitting. Some people will do progress photos in like tighter clothes that are like more rigid. So maybe like denim shorts, for example, so they can see if things are fitting better like around the waist. Because for some people, again, you just become a smaller version of yourself and you can't visually see those changes as much. So paying attention to how your clothes are fitting is really, really important.
One big question that I do want you to ask yourself as well in the reverse diet is, how much internal healing do I actually need to do? A lot of the times we might realize that we have a lot of internal healing to do, but we actually don't want to accept the fact that we actually have to go through a lot of maybe discomfort or a long period of a reverse or a very extensive reverse diet in order to see true repair and healing on the other side. And for some people whose bodies are really damaged and need a lot of work to repair, spoiler alert, it's way more than you think, might be you who's listening right now, then sometimes a little bit of weight gain before we can actually go into fat loss is expected. And that's where the coaching can really come in handy, because your coach can usually tell you what to expect based on your assessments. Hey, you're in adrenal dysfunction right now. This is probably going to be a little bit of a longer journey than we thought. This is what to expect. And when the body is having to heal and repair so substantially, remember, if you've had years of stress and years of chronic dieting, we can't solve that in 3 months. And, we can't expect your body to be focusing on fat loss all the time. And sometimes, again, gaining a tiny bit in the beginning of the journey can actually help it heal and achieve more long-term for you when it comes to fat loss. And also, as an aside, remember, having an autoimmune condition or a lot of stress in your daily life will automatically set your timeline a little bit longer, just because you're still in the same environment or your body is still working a little bit differently. So make sure that you're patient with yourself. And lastly, ask yourself, are my expectations too unrealistic for me? Kind of along those same lines. And you cannot compare your reverse diet journey to anybody else's. And for some reason, we only compare our journey to the really good ones that we hear. Why? But have you ever been through this before? Do you even know what to expect? If you don't have anything to go off of, it is really important to make sure that you are remaining curious about how your body is responding versus critical, and have potentially unrealistic expectations about what the reverse is going to look like for you.
Yeah, and like expectations that aren't realistic can make things a lot more challenging, make it a lot more emotional, which is really hard on ourselves. Because like, let's face it, most of us have hormonal imbalances. We're all a little bit tiny reactive, right? Like we're a little bit more reactive than we used to be. We're a little bit more moody, a little bit more emotional. And that was like when we were trying to get pregnant, I was like very realistic that like my hormones were messed up for like a long, long time, like a long time. So it's important to, like, what I made sure was like, okay, I was being realistic. All my friends were like, no, you're going to get off your birth control and you'll get pregnant first time. That's how it happened for me. And I'm like, bad word. Beep. You don't know what my body is like. It's different than your situation. I've had different stressors. I've had my hormones tested. I know where I'm at. I know this isn't going to be a quick journey for us. And I was fully prepared to have to go on IVF. The idea that I might not be able to get pregnant at all, like I was very realistic in that this will be awesome if it happens, but if it doesn't, there's other options and it might still not happen, and that's okay. Will it be emotional and will it suck? Absolutely. But I was like going into it with like, these are all the potential things that could happen. And when we did get pregnant eventually, it was like a huge relief. I was terrified for like the first trimester because I was like, is this really real? Like going to like our OB appointments and ultrasound stuff. Like I was just like always preparing for the worst news, which isn't a great place to be, but I was being realistic and like knowing what my progesterone struggles were and stuff like that. So that doesn't mean you should catastrophize and like expect the worst, but be realistic with what's your situation. And like, if you aren't sure what to expect, just message me, book a consultation call. We'll talk this out with you so you do know what to expect, because I think that's really important, because you're going to get some people that are like, oh, that's fine. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. And it's like, can you just be honest with me? Because like, I want to know everything. Like I want to know. And then I've talked to friends who've, gone through their delivery process and they're like, oh, it was great. I actually loved childbirth. I'm like, I need to talk to someone else because I don't think that that's the majority of people's experience. And then I have had people who've had like blood transfusions and it was pretty traumatic. So I'm like, it's nice to know all the options. I don't want to prepare the worst, but like figuring out what's realistic for me, what to expect, I think has been very comforting. And I think it's no different with nutrition and diet and trying to lose weight, because it is important to be aware of like what can happen, what's most likely going to happen, but it's nice to know all the potentials, So I think that's like, for me, I find it very comforting. For some people, it's like very scary, but I'm a science-based person, right? So I'm like, I like statistics. I like all the numbers and the information and stuff like that. So the next one is, don't get married to a trend. Things will change weekly, and what starts in phase 1 may not be what happens the entire time, right? So some clients might lose a little bit at the beginning, and then in 4 to 6 weeks, we might see the scale jump up a little bit, or vice versa. They start gaining weight and then all of a sudden it's like they drop. I have a client like this that we saw the scale go up by like 2-3 pounds, and all of a sudden waist got a little bit more consistent in her reverse and she dropped 2 pounds super quickly. So without even dropping calories yet. So it all depends on what your body needs to heal in your specific body. Things won't always be a linear trajectory in a reverse diet or a fat loss phase for that matter, which is why sticking to the entire process and the journey is so, so important. So don't expect to suddenly feel amazing all the time. The reverse diet is not about always feeling amazing or always happy with every single part of the process, but it's more about acknowledging that things are improving. We're looking for trends over time. Progress is never linear. I cannot say this enough. So keeping track of things on a tracker daily can help us see trends that just is more than just how you quote unquote feel. So for instance, you might not feel like sleep has been improving, but after you've had a bad night's sleep, right? You're like, oh, this isn't working. But if you look back, you realize, oh, like I've been getting like an hour more a night, like 4 days out of this week, which was never a thing before. So that's really huge progress, even if it's not every day. We want to look at those weekly averages and see how things are moving over time. Let your brain recognize the good. Celebrate the wins, because we are constantly looking for, this isn't working. This isn't working, right? Because we're so used to hopping on the next fad diet and seeing results super quick, but we know that those don't stay, right? Because otherwise you probably wouldn't be listening to this podcast. So you need to allow yourself to recognize those good changes, right? The progress that you're making. And when you do that, you're actually like allowing your brain to feel it too. So acknowledging and recognizing those small things is important, because whatever you look for, your brain's going to give you proof. So it's like, if you're looking for reasons this isn't working, your body's going to spit out, like your brain's going to spit out every single thing that's like not working, right? Whereas like if you actively point out to yourself the good, when you need to, you can be like, okay, what are the signs that this is actually working? Then your brain is more easily to like tell you those things. There's a whole psychology aspect of this, which I love when we're not going to get into the nitty gritties of it, but you need to acknowledge and celebrate the good, because otherwise this is going to be very, very, very hard. This is already an emotional journey. We're in an emotional time in our life. A lot of things are changing. So celebrate every little win. It's important. It will make this so much more enjoyable for you.
Absolutely. So when we talk about tracking our weekly averages, even for improvements, you might notice that if we're talking about the scale, because that's what this episode is about, that your scale, the number on the scale fluctuates every single day. And while the average maybe over the week stays the same, you feel like you've been really consistent with your tracking, and you jump on the scale one morning and it's 2 pounds heavier than what you were yesterday, even though you did the exact same things, or you feel like you did the exact same things. And then you jump on the next day and you're like, okay, I did the same things again, and now it's 3 pounds lighter or something like that. And the scale will fluctuate up and down so much from day to day for some people. Some people are a little bit more consistent, and this is due to more daily fluctuations. So we're going to talk about that now. While the scale can be, first of all, a useful tool to help us measure progress, especially over time, it is really important to remember that it's just that. It's just a tool, and it's just one tool in our entire toolbox. And that's just one piece of the puzzle for us. And it only provides a glimpse into the full picture, which is why we ask for all those other things. We'll talk at the end about what metrics we use in our coaching program to help us in terms of assessing progress. So let's discuss the reasons that the scale may actually fluctuate from day to day and why it might not be the most reliable indication of your progress, especially if you're looking at it very narrowly and you're like, well, today it's 2 pounds heavier, so I'm 2 pounds fatter today. Doesn't work like that. So the first reason that it also is something that can cause a little bit of the number on the scale to go up as an average in the reverse diet is water fluctuations. And if the scale is fluctuating daily, you may have drank more or less water than usual. And remember, the scale is used to measure like your gravitational pull to the earth. It's not used to measure maybe your body composition sometimes. It doesn't tell you what kind of weight it's measuring. For example, let's say you weigh yourself now, and then you chug like 20 ounces of water and then weigh yourself again. What do you think is going to happen? The number on the scale is definitely going to go up because you now have 20 ounces of water, and water is pretty dense. It can weigh a lot. And so that's what will happen sometimes from day to day is you drink more water than usual, or maybe you eat food that has more water in it, or the opposite, and you drink less water than usual, or you have foods that have a lot less water in them, or foods that retain a little bit more water in your body. That can cause scale fluctuations to go up and down. It can cause the scale to increase. It can cause the scale to decrease on a daily body. And if you are trying to drink more water actively, you might notice the scale goes up a little bit, which will level out once your body gets used to more water consistently after a few days. And so just remember that water is very temporary, and that can cause some pretty major fluctuations on the scale when you drink less or you drink more.
Reason number 2, carbs. We talked about this a little bit, but if you ate more carbs than usual or ate more carbs later in the day, I hope that by now, by listening to me, or if this is new, go to the carbs podcast that we have. Carbs do not make you fat. I want to put that in bold, in red writing, all over the sky somewhere so everyone can read that. Carbs do not make you fat. Carbs are not bad for you. In fact, contrary to what all the keto kind of cult people say, carbs are actually incredibly important when it comes to regulating hormones, improving your mood and your energy levels, not to mention your thyroid function in perimenopause and menopause. Remember, 1 gram of carb equals 3 grams to 4 grams of water, which is why we experience such a huge drop in weight when you start keto. If you have a few more carbs than usual on one day, or if you eat the majority of your carbs later in the day, you can expect the number on the scale to be a bit higher in the morning. The increase in scale weight is not from fat. It is simply due to an increase in water retention, due to the increase in carbs. Do not cut your carbs, please. You will be more stressed out and you are going to have less hormone production. You're going to have more blood sugar regulation issues, lower thyroid function, worse gut health. It actually takes a toll on our liver as well. There are so many reasons to eat carbs. Just eat your carbs, please. please.
Some people I do know will, and this is what people do when they go to weigh in for maybe, let's say, like fighters or something super extreme, but they'll like cut their carbs so that they weigh significantly less when they go weigh in before their like meet or their competition. And then they'll just like binge on carbs and water afterwards, and they'll gain like 20 pounds in a day, right? So if you eat less carbs for the day, then you'll probably weigh in a little bit lighter the next day as well. The next reason is that maybe you haven't pooped. So, if you're constipated or you're not going regularly every day and having a good bowel movement every day, this can result in a slightly higher number on the scale because you've got more in there than you maybe did yesterday. And digestion plays a huge role in the scale fluctuating and, of course, in just like long-term weight loss. If your gut isn't happy, you can expect to have maybe a tougher time the next day with the number on the scale. You're maybe holding on to more water because of some bloating and retention, or you have more poop in your digestive system that you have not gotten out because maybe you were constipated yesterday. And depending on the person, that can make a huge difference in the number on the scale when you weigh in the morning, versus if you had gone either the day before or that morning before you actually took your weight.
Okay, so then reason number 4 is you worked out hard. This is a big one. We know many of you are working out and pushing yourselves in the gym several times per week, and when we exercise, our muscles are put under stress. This is not a bad thing. However, this in turn leads to inflammation and water retention. It is completely normal. It's your body's natural response to physical activity. And as part of the recovery process, your body is going to draw more water into those muscle cells as a way to repair themselves so you can push harder in your next workout, so you can put on more muscle mass. If you had a particularly challenging workout, you can expect the number on the scale to increase a bit the next day. So some of the best ways to get rid of post-workout inflammation are to go for a light, low-intensity walk. So not a mall walk. We're not racing to the sale. This is nice. This is relaxing. You can take an Epsom salt bath. You can drink lots of water. If you have an autoimmune condition, inflammation after workouts is going to be a lot more common. So that is something to be aware of.
Steph, how fast do you walk in the mall? You sound like a very aggressive shopper.
Honestly, I'm like a get in, get out. Like I'm like a one lap around on the store. If there's not something that captures my attention, I am out. Like I love winners, but I hate winners because having to sift through things, I'm just like, no, we're not doing this. Like I like going in, seeing everything and like in and out. Like I'm a quick shopper. I don't dilly daddle at all.
Don't get in Steph's way at the mall, you guys. It's not going to be fun. Okay, the next reason is, this is a really important one because it goes hand in hand with water, is maybe you consumed more or less sodium than usual. And sodium, I think, has gotten a really bad rap. It shouldn't, especially nowadays. We've busted quite a few myths around sodium and salt, but sodium is a really incredibly important electrolyte. It helps with nerve impulses, muscle contractions, mineral balance in the body. And while sodium is super essential for our health, if we are doing anything out of the normal or out of the norm that our body is used to, so for instance, consuming more salt than your body is used to on a daily basis, it can cause your body to hold on to excess water as a way to maintain something called homeostatic ion balance in your body. So basically, if you've ever swam in like a super salty like ocean versus a freshwater lake with very little salt, you have like the density is different in the water kind of, right? So you float a lot easier with salt water and you sink with like fresh water or lake water. Same thing kind of happens in your body, is when you have not enough water and way too much salt, it will change the way that your body kind of functions. And so your body will grab onto whatever free water molecules it has in the body and tries to put it in the blood to like dilute the blood a little bit if you have a lot of sodium, which is why when you eat really salty meal or something that you're not used to, the next day you might feel really puffy, and you might feel like you're retaining a lot of water, and the number on the scale will probably be a little bit higher because that salt has caused a lot of water retention in the body, right? So the best way to manage this is to not decrease your sodium intake necessarily, but actually just increase your water intake a bit in order to flush out the excess sodium, restore your body's normal water balance. Don't worry about it too much. Don't fret. It will normalize in a couple of days, and just get back to your normal sodium intake.
And this is very common after you've eaten out. Like, so if you've gone to like a restaurant, restaurants are notorious for adding salt because that makes everything way more delicious, let's be honest. So you will see the scale go up the day after you've gone out for a meal because salt makes everything taste good. Like, tell me you haven't put on salt on soup or something, then it's it's just better. Like it's just better.
Salt is amazing. I'm a big salt fan. You can tell immediately if someone has not salted your meal at a restaurant. It does not taste the same.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm like, pass it over.
Give me the salt.
The next reason is you had a poor night's sleep. So this one, you guys are like, I never sleep well. This should be a little voice in your head going ding, ding, ding. So we've all had those restless nights where it seems absolutely impossible to fall asleep. You find that the number on the scale is going to increase after a night of tossing and turning. You are not alone. Lack of sleep puts your body into the state of fight or flight. It brings your cortisol levels up, and that's going to result in excess water retention. You may also notice that after a restless sleep, you experience more cravings. This is your body's response to lack of energy. So don't try and not eat. Make better food choices. Make sure there's fiber, make sure there's protein, make sure there's some carbohydrates in there, because those cravings are just your body's way of trying to get you to consume more energy since you had a poor sleep. On days like this, again, make sure you're drinking enough water, focus on that balanced plate, and it can be super tempting. Do not overdo caffeine intake because too much caffeine will actually just stress your body out more. Caffeine doesn't actually provide you with energy. It just prevents you from feeling tired. So important. Inversely, improving your sleep can also help lower your cortisol levels, that stress response, and it can help you let go of that water and inflammation. So sleep is very, very, very huge here.
Very important. And that is the one thing that we see a lot of our clients see a lot of improvement in over the course of the reverse diet is making sure that their sleep is so much better or more restful or higher quality, which is very important for everything when it comes to health. The next reason is maybe you are on other medications. And we have to remember that everything that we take in has the possibility to cause water retention or cause our body to hold on to fluids a little bit differently. A lot of medications can be steroid based or even antidepressant or anti-anxiety medications. If you change dosages, that's a big deal. These all have side effects of water retention, and those can fluctuate based on other factors that maybe you can't control. And this can also cause our bodies to be more sensitive or more prone to fluid retention, even from the slightest changes. So remember, even the medications that you're on can change the way that your body has a sensitivity to water or sodium. And so remembering that can just help you keep in mind too that, of course, first of all, weight loss or fat loss is still possible while you're on these medications. It's important to stick to your balanced diet and being really consistent regardless of any fluctuations. That's where the average over the week can help. However, just being aware of the fact that these medications can cause more sensitivity and more drastic fluctuations from day to day is really important to keep in mind.
The next one, which is probably my favorite, is you are way too stressed out and you need to chill the F out, which is what we term #CTFO, chill the F out. It is a slogan that we go by in our community, and it is a good thing to just remind yourself. I've had people actually print it on water bottles and make stickers and write it down, which I think is hilarious. And they send me pictures and I love it. By now, we all know the importance of making time for daily stress relief. So did you know that increases in stress can be reflected on the scale? When our bodies are stressed out, we tend to go into fight or flight, which as a result is going to increase your stress hormone cortisol. This not only makes us feel like garbage, to be honest, but is going to lead to inflammation in the body, which we know can lead to more water retention. It can lead to that increase on the scale. And if you find that you've been having a more stressful week than usual, try engaging in stress relief strategies like putting your legs up on the wall, Epsom salt baths, deep breathing, maybe it's journaling, maybe it's doing some meditation or yoga. These strategies are going to help bring your body out of fight or flight and send a signal to your body to reduce inflammation and water retention. This is when we cannot stress enough because everyone's like, oh, I'm handling it well. It's not as bad as Susie Q down the street. No, if you're experiencing stress and you write down everything, you're like, oh, but I handle it well. Chances are you're probably not handling it well. Your body needs to, learn to de-stress properly, because if you are not, you're not having enough carbs and you're fasting and doing a bunch of exercise and you're not sleeping, you're not going to be successful. The scale is going to trend upwards.
Absolutely. And based on, also as a result of stress or maybe as a result of something else, the next reason is it actually could be hormonal as well. So if you are in perimenopause and you're still menstruating and maybe you have a regular cycle, potentially still, week 1 of when your period starts and week 3 of your cycle, so typically after what you would consider ovulation, depending on, again, what stage in life you're at, those 2 weeks usually come with more water retention. So of course, the scale is probably going to trend up a little bit in those weeks. And being on any kind of birth control or HRT or in perimenopause doesn't make you exempt from these hormonal shifts. So as progesterone is usually the culprit to water retention, estrogen can be too, especially if you're on HRT. This can cause a lot of acute fluctuations that are maybe not as cyclical or as patterned as if you had a normal cycle. So you could get some water retention from hormones randomly, maybe during the week, and it's really hard to tell if it is hormonal or not if it doesn't come with other symptoms, right? And so you could just have random fluctuations in the scale from these hormones. And post-menopause doesn't mean that you're exempt from this either. Testosterone or androgens, which are expected to stay the same or go up in postmenopause, even when estrogen and progesterone are lower, will actually influence water retention as well quite a bit if they are fluctuating, maybe based on stress or based on what you're eating or based on your exercise.
And then the last one we have here is you are sick or you were sick. So past tense. Ever notice how when you're sick, you definitely don't feel your best, obviously, right? I know physically that when I'm sick, I'm kind of feeling kind of puffy and down and no energy, maybe a little bit fluffier compared to usual, right? And this is because being sick can cause a stress and cortisol response. So your body goes into fight or flight to fight off that infection. This is what we want it to do, but it needs more water to do that. And cortisol can stay elevated for up to 2 weeks after a sickness. So don't expect to start feeling lean and mean and like super great and like back to your normal self and that the scale will reflect that for a couple of days or even a couple of weeks. The scale might go down in the beginning of the phases of sickness because you're eating less or drinking less, and then will probably shoot up to overcompensate as you start to feel better. And this will usually happen over time. So give your body patience to heal internally before making any rash decisions about things. A woman actually asked me a question about this literally yesterday. And she was like, oh man, like I was sick like mid-January and I'm still like what I was doing before isn't helping. I'm having hormonal symptoms. Like what's going on? And it's like, okay, your stress response is probably still high. You're probably not 100% good yet. Your body's still in fight or flight. We probably actually have to increase your calories a little bit and focus a bit more on recovery. Don't be going crazy in the gym. Let's actually give your body the time it needs to rest, and then you'll be good to go. So as you can see, there are a ton of things that can cause scale fluctuations. We didn't even touch on alcohol here. Like there's a lot of things. And that isn't fat. In case you didn't notice, most of these things are fluid retention and some inflammation. So while there's a time and place to use a scale as a tool to measure progress, it's important to realize that the number on the scale is not the be all and end all of your progress. If you notice the number on the scale isn't budging or it's going up, please do not become discouraged. Do not panic and all of a sudden go off plan and start cutting your calories and cutting your carbs. That's not what we want. This is where trusting the process and awareness of all the factors that impact the number on the scale come into place. So write down those things, add alcohol in there, and ask yourself those questions when the scale starts to fluctuate. And if you see the scale is causing large amounts of stress, then don't weigh yourself. Don't do it. Either weigh yourself every day or don't weigh yourself at all. Because like if you're weighing yourself even every other day, I posted a picture of this in our Facebook community. I have a client right now that she's down quite a bit of weight, but if she would have only weighed every other day or every 2 days, she would think she's not seeing changes because the scale fluctuates that much. When we take her weekly average, she is trending downwards. So either weigh yourself every day or don't weigh yourself at all. It is so important that you do not define your progress by the scale. As long as you are consistently meeting your calorie and protein targets, you're following the recommendations made by a coach or by us, you can certainly, you will be certain that you will reach your goals. But no, it's not a 30-day thing or a 60-day thing or even a 3-month thing. This is going to take time because we are doing this the right way.
Steph, I know we touched on alcohol a little bit earlier in the podcast, but did you want to quickly explain what the scale does with alcohol when we do drink it, maybe the day after and then like 2 or 3 days after?
Yeah. So alcohol, you will see typically the scale will go down the next day because you're dehydrated, but then your body overcompensates and it'll shoot up for the next 2, even 3 days. And we notice this is more prominent in women in perimenopause and menopause because alcohol does cause a stress on your body, and our stress tolerance is pretty crappy once estrogen and progesterone goes down. So we can't handle as much stress as we used to. So if you're having a glass of wine, like every other day or every 3 days, you are going to see that the scale just perpetually stays up because you're never actually allowing your body to recover from that stress. And then if you're adding in exercise and not sleeping and fasting and not having carbs, like you're not going to see success in weight loss, unfortunately. And like the fluid retention effects from alcohol can really mask progress, especially in a fat loss phase. And this is something we've had to talk to quite a few clients about, where it's like, if you really, like, if the scale really matters to you and you want to see those changes, cut out alcohol for these 8 weeks or these 9 weeks, these 10 weeks. I mean, when you had children, I don't think you drank for 9 months. I know you can do it. So it's just, you can do it. So like, let's just try that and tell them, like, tell your friends, hey, I'm not going to have wine for the next 9 weeks because I'm really focusing on this. If they give you a hard time, be like, you wouldn't be judging me if I was pregnant right now and telling you I don't want alcohol. So what gives? And that will probably shut them up and you'll be good to go.
Absolutely. I love that. And just keep in mind that alcohol is a neurotoxin. So if you're so worried about eating clean and eating the healthiest foods and not allowing anything to go into your body from like a diet perspective that's like super unhealthy or what you would deem unhealthy, just remember that alcohol is going to probably make you feel worse. I hate to admit it, but most of our clients who cut out alcohol feel substantially better than the clients that don't or try to keep it in. So let's talk about some more accurate metrics of progress. The first one, of course, as Steph talked very in depth about, is pictures, making sure you're doing front, side, and back pictures in the same outfit in the mornings. Obviously, some tight fitting clothes would be ideal for this just because it's easier to see changes when we can actually see your body. These are by far, for most people, the most accurate way to see change over time. However, measurements can be a really good thing to do as well, because as Steph said, sometimes just from a genetic standpoint, some people carry weight really well, but then they lose weight kind of in the same proportion. So they just look like smaller versions of themselves for a little while. And that's where measurements can come in handy. Ideally of the waist, maybe your hips, your thighs, maybe your chest at the very least in the morning, of course, just like taking pictures and just like weighing yourself. Then we can start to see body composition changes. Or if you are getting smaller, even if you feel like you look potentially the same in pictures. Habit tracking can be a great way to see progress too, especially in the reverse diet when we might not be seeing any kind of specific or drastic weight loss because we're getting our bodies ready for fat loss. So tracking your exercise frequency, tracking your water intake, tracking your vegetable intake, your de-stressing schedule. This is more important than you think because you can actually see the habit changes and how consistent you've been. And then you can compare that to your results. And then you can also see, hey, I had like 4 or 5 really good nights of sleep, even though last night was really bad and it changed my perspective on the whole week. But I can look back and I can see that my consistency is really improving in some of these areas.
Yeah, and like I think we all know that if you're making progress and you are having veggies like at 2 meals a day, 5 days a week, and before you were getting like 1 every now and then, that is progress. We know that will get you closer to your end goal. So measuring those things is important. Getting stronger in the gym, huge non-scale metric to definitely utilize. If you are getting stronger in the gym, that is a clear sign of progress that your body is able to actually push through. You're getting stronger. We're going to see muscle mass changes there. That is amazing. Energy levels, feeling better, having a better or more stable mood, having more energy. That shows a huge non-scale improvement in your inner health. And when that starts to improve, we know your body is functioning. Okay. When you are tired, that's an indication that something is not right. So this is a good sign. Your clothes fitting better, mood stabilization, feeling like you're back in control again, feeling like you again. Because a lot of women we talk to come in, they're like, I don't feel like myself. The things that I used to love to do, I don't want to do anymore. I've like lost my passion for things. When those things start to come back, that's the kind of stuff that makes me want to cry. I'm just like so genuinely happy. And those things don't happen when your health isn't good, because we don't want to go do the things that we love to do because it just doesn't sound good. When we're healthy and our body is functioning properly, it's a lot easier to do those things. If I'm exhausted and not feeling good, I'm not going to go play volleyball. I'm not going to go for a walk. That seems like too much work and not worth it. When I'm in a good health, those things sound super fun and exciting and I love going. So I think that's really important to pay attention to all those things. Which metrics you use may change in different phases of life, what you are focused on. So don't get married on just one metric or on a specific trend. Keep your mind open to changes on how your body works over time to adjust your metrics, adjust that. Because I have people in a fat loss phase that they really care about their energy now because they have it and it's back. So as soon as they start to see things waver, they're like, red flag, help me. I don't know what's happening. So we'll either adjust their food intake or we'll take them out of their fat loss phase because energy is very important. And that's not something they're willing to give up anymore. So it's very important to pay attention to these things. So in summary, write down these 10 things. It's very important to help you with weight fluctuations and give you some peace of mind. Did you have a change in water intake, carb intake? Have you pooped? Did you work out harder the day before? Have you consumed more salt? Did you have a poor night's sleep? Are you on medications or had something tweaked? Are you more stressed out or experiencing more stress? Are you experiencing hormonal changes? Where are you in your cycle? Are you sick or were you sick a little while ago? And alcohol intake. Have you consumed alcohol in the last 3 to 4 days? It's not just the night before. It's have you consumed alcohol in the last 3 to 4 days? So print that out, write it out, put it on a sticky note, put it on your scale, whatever it is, because having that will automatically make you feel better. And if you notice a trend of oh yeah, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening. Okay, maybe that's something that we really need to focus on to help you move forward, right? Because if you're not aware of it, we can't change what we're not aware of. If I'm not aware that something I do is bugging Taylor and he doesn't tell me, I'm probably going to keep doing it until I find out. It's no different with our health and fitness journey. So I hope you guys found this helpful. We went long. Kirianna and I always talk so much.
I'm so sorry, Steph.
All the time. It's all good. This is always fine. I do enjoy these a lot. Just a reminder, we do have that giveaway for my birthday and Vitality's birthday. Some lucky person is going to win 3 months of free coaching. And then we have a set number of runner-up prize packages, which include $500 off coaching, a $50 gift card to your choice of Lululemon, Amazon, or Starbucks, and enter to win one of 2 free hormone Dutch tests. It's free to apply. Link is in the show notes for you. Follow me on socials. I share it there as well. And if you need any help at all, just let us know. Reach out. I'm always happy to help. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and we will talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.